You've tuned in to the most crazy rocking metal podcast on the air. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metal from the Inside.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Metal from the Inside podcast. I'm your host, Sydney Taylor, of course, and joining me this week is another rock legend. I have Vinny Appice joining me, of course, drummer for Black Sabbath, of course, Dio. He played on Mob Rules, Holy Diver, so many of those iconic Dio records. He is also currently doing so much that doesn't even begin to cover his career. He's currently working in Last in Line, as many of you know, and it is a total honor to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining me, Vinny.
Hey, thanks to have me on the show, Sydney. Nice to meet you as well. So I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, first off, how have you been? Because this year has just been insane. It was a total just sidetracked so many of our lives, and, especially yours as a touring musician. So, how have you been just mentally? How have you been doing?
I've been great. Luckily, I've been really busy because I have a home studio here, and I'm doing a lot of sessions for different projects, and we're working on the third Last in Line album. And then in the summer, we started doing a drum show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time on my Facebook for my drum company. So between all this stuff, and then another show popped up of one I do with my brother. It's a live stream Thursdays. It's called Hanging and Banging. I don't know the link to it, but we do that every Thursday at 4 o'clock, and we have pretty good guests on there, so that's good. So with all this stuff, it's become an internet thing and been very busy. But the other side of it is, I haven't been home this long in ever. Yeah, well, it gets a little kind of boring, and even though I'm busy and playing and drums are right here, it gets pretty mundane, like I don't have to go anywhere. It's cool. I like being home, but before it was so much travel, going to, States, fly back 2 days, go to Europe, come back, all this stuff. And now it's completely different. So it takes a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, like, was that first for you? I mean, at first it must have been, kind of like a welcome to like, oh gosh, I get to finally, take a little bit of a break, right? I mean, obviously, of course, as it's gone on, it's like I'm itching to get back out there. But for you at first, I mean, I know for a lot of people, it was a nice opportunity to kind of slow down and kind of regroup a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's gone on. My last gig I did was, what was that? March 15th. So it's almost a year.
Yeah.
And then a year ago at this time, my brother and I played New York City, pretty much. And then we had like 4 or 5 days off. He used to live there with his girlfriend, and I hung out with my girlfriend, and we toured New York. She's never been there. So it's really weird. Right before this crap hit the fan, we went all over New York City. I had friends there. We went to go see all the sights and all this stuff. And then we played in New York. Then we played in Washington. We got a private tour of the Capitol building, and that was really cool. And now when you see what's going on, you go, oh my God, we just missed chaos. And you'll never probably get to go into the Capitol building, who knows, for a long time or never again. So it was really weird. Then we came home at the middle of February, and then this whole thing started. And now you look back and go, wow, we just missed it. New York was so cool, so much fun, all the people, and it was really, really great experience. And then the Capitol building and the whole thing down out, completely different world. Crazy.
Yeah, my brother lives in New York, and they tell me, they're like, it's just completely different. It's like it's a ghost town. We used to see people walking and people doing things, and there's not a tourist to be seen anymore. It's like, it's crazy. New York hasn't been like this in
probably ever.
Yeah, maybe. Probably ever.
New York's always been packed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool that you got to have that opportunity a little bit, you weren't expecting it, to be able to do that and kind of visit while you still could. But yeah, I mean, you've been staying busy though, like you said, you've been doing the drum show, you've been doing different projects, and you also have recently worked on the Joel Hoekstra record, Joel Hoekstra's 13 with him, Running Games. And I know you did his first record, his debut a couple years back, and you're back on this sophomore record. So how did you end up getting hooked up with Joel to begin with? Because I mean, I know that you guys have, I'm sure, have crossed paths, but what was the catalyst for you guys wanting to do this project together?
Well, actually, I met Joel actually through Tony Franklin, the bass player, Tony, who played with the Firm and Jimmy Page. And he was playing on Joel's first album. And he called me. He said, "Hey, you want to play on this? Your name came up. It'd be great. I'm playing on it." And I said, "Yeah, that was cool." I heard some of the songs. I went, "Yeah, this is great stuff." So he hooked me up. So I never really met Joel. We talked on the phone. Then he sent me files. So everything was done on the internet, right? And then funny thing with that is then about a year and a half after the album came out, he was booked on a cruise, a rock cruise. And he asked me to play on it with him. So it's really funny because I did the cruise, but I never met Joel. And, "Hey, you're Joel. How you doing, man?" And then we only had a 2-hour rehearsal with the whole band. It wasn't even Tony Franklin's, a different bass player. And we rehearsed for 2 hours, but man, I really learned the songs well, and I wrote charts out and cheat sheets, and we really played well on the cruise together. But it was really weird because I never met the guy. You go, "Hey, dude, I'm Vinny, man." So it was good. We played good. Everybody loved it. So it's cool.
Yeah, is it weird for you, as it always intrigues me, the way that technology has changed? I mean, when you were making, some of those records that you're so known for, you were in the studio, you were recording together, you were writing together, everything was happening, maybe if it wasn't live, but you guys were in the studio. So, I mean, is it weird for you to have that transition of kind of having that environment and then going to, you make a record with somebody without ever meeting them?
Yeah, it's a transition. But I started doing like a home recording thing a long time ago, probably 10 years ago. I started with an electronic kit. I wasn't really doing a lot of sessions and stuff, but we were doing demos for ourselves. And then it started happening, getting files over the internet, and I'd go to my friend's studio and do them. Then I bought this house, and I was able to put drums in here and make a lot of noise and stuff. So now I'm used to it. I really like it. What I like is I'm the engineer. I mean, I don't know if you can see all the drums.
Yeah.
So right in the back there, and I sit there. I got the screen over here, and I run the wireless keyboard, and I punch in and punch out. But I'm able to really hone in on the song and really feel what it needs. And if I can do whatever I want. It's great. So it comes out really well. And I'm used to playing with a click. I mean, it's like I don't even hear the click anymore. And then I can mess around with different microphones. I bought different microphones, and I love doing this. So it's a really cool thing. But then with Last in Line, when we record, we go in the room together and play together because we're a band. We rehearse, we wrote the stuff together. So that's a different scenario. This stuff here, I just do a lot of sessions this way. And so I totally enjoy it. But it is two different animals. Years ago, we never used a click. It was tape.
Yeah.
You could punch in, but it was a physical punch in. And if you hear the noise, you might have to do the punch again, because the electronic noise of the punch. Here, in the computer, let me just move it over. Totally different. Yeah. But I like it.
For Last in Line then, I mean, you said that you were working on the next record. Now, was that already in the works before this all happened? Did you guys get to do some writing together, kind of play together in one room, or did that kind of, the pandemic kind of,
No, it was before, right before.
Gotcha.
Beginning of last year, and we were able to get together and a number of times in Las Vegas when Def Leppard played in Las Vegas. They've had a couple of days off. So we were there. Our singer, Andrew Freeman, he lives there. Now Phil lives there, the bassist, so two of them are there. So we were able to hook up in Vegas, hang out, and then when Viv finished the gigs, we were able to write and rehearse. And then at the beginning of the year, we went to the studio here in LA and recorded 6 songs. So we still got half of it to do, So we haven't done a file exchange really, because we don't work that way. So we're trying to finish up what we got, and then we'll continue.
And I love that Jeff Pilson, because he produced the first record, he's producing this record, and you have and the second record as well. I mean, you guys have a really long history, right? Because
Well,
I know that.
he's not producing this one.
Oh, he's not producing this one. Oh,
No, no, we made a change, and
okay,
we're using the same guy to actually the guy who mixed the last record, Chris Collier is great. He's working with Korn. He recorded this record, and we're kind of producing it ourselves with between all of us. You know, Jeff is great. Jeff's a great producer and great ideas and stuff. But we just felt that we could probably do what we want to do now that we're a band. We've been on the road and we know what we want to hear. So,
right.
but it's come out great. You know, stuff sounds fantastic. So, and
Yeah.
then yeah, I've been through a lot with Jeff Pilson. I know him for years. He's a great guy. He's like my brother.
Yeah, because you guys did that group, Flesh and Blood, back in, was it the late
Yeah.
80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was a funny band. So actually, I think it was called War and Peace, and then we changed it to Flesh and Blood.
Gotcha.
I guess it was something and something like heaven and hell, or tea, milk and coffee and donuts. That's a good name.
When it came to Last in Line too, because I think that the origin kind of that group is so great, because I mean, obviously you guys have a history, the original band had a history of playing with Dio, you guys were the original band, but Last in Line actually came about, if I'm correct, it actually was something that at first you guys weren't going to have it be like a, you know, studio project or anything. It was kind of just jamming, right? You guys kind of just got together for fun.
Exactly. It was a fun thing. Vivian called me one day. He said, "Hey, I spoke to Jimmy. You want to get together next week in the studio, just jam?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be cool." So the three of us got together, and that was when Jimmy Bain was alive, obviously. And we played. We played all the old Dio stuff, Holy Diver, Last Night. And we had a good time. It was fun. We didn't have any vocals. And it was so much fun, we said, let's do it again next week. And then next week, I called Andy. Andy was in town doing some project. And I said, why don't you come down, meet Viv? And he knew Jimmy, I think. But come down, meet Viv, and maybe sing a couple songs, you know? So he had a break in whatever he was doing. He came down and he sang these. He knew all the words. He knew everything. And he blew us away, you know, especially Viv, because Viv never met him before. And we go, holy shit, that sounds great, man. So then we decided, let's do a couple of gigs. It would be cool, you know, see what fans think. So we did a couple of gigs. We did a couple, I think we did a couple in LA, and then we went, then our manager in Europe, Steve Strange, booked us, he heard we were doing this. He booked us 4 or 5 shows in Europe. So we went over to Europe. Then we got an offer to go to Japan. Then all of a sudden, things were happening, you know. And then he got us a record deal with Frontier Records, the first album. All right, let's do an album. And so we got together and wrote the songs. And so that's how it built up. And then the second album, and we've been on the road. We got a good following. Got the internet thing going on. So turned into a real band, you know, rather than just a fun jam. And I don't know, Viv jokingly said, let's call it the Last in Line, because people are asking for names. Now that we know it's a real band, we probably would have called it something else to distinguish it. But people wanted to hear all the old Dio songs, especially from Holy Diver and the Last in Line album. So we got such great response, so we just kept it going. We have a lot of fun. It's a fun band, on the stage and off the stage, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, when it's a passion project like that, I think some of the best stuff comes out of that, you know what I mean? When you kind of want to play because you want to and not because, you know, you have to write something or whatever.
Yeah, when it's fun, it makes it a lot easier. Like that album behind you, Holy Diver, when we put that together, we were all, you know, first of all, we were a lot younger, and it was a new band, and it was so much fun. It's at 7 o'clock, we go down to Sound City, and we'd rehearse in the rehearsal room, and we used to do crazy shit in there, destroy the place. But it was like a boys' club almost, you know. And we go in there and just have a ball, and we writing this stuff and getting high and smoking pot, and not anything serious, but and we're just having a great time. And across the parking lot in Sound City is the recording part. Then we drag all the equipment over right off across the parking lot and set it up, and then we record the songs we had and bring it all back, write some more. So it was a great hang. And you could tell in the music's on fire. because everybody's happy and having a great time. So that's important, you know. You don't
Yeah.
want it to become a chore or a job. You don't like somebody in the band, you go, oh man, you know, you're on stage, you're looking at them, like him. This was fun.
Yeah,
That
I
was,
mean, it's also like I think too with that album and even with like the first, I guess you guys without like knowing it was gonna be a project yet, is that there's no expectation also. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I guess there might have been a little expectation for Dio and you guys, you know, after Black Sabbath, but no one knew what you're gonna sound like yet or what you're gonna be coming out
no.
with.
Well,
So it was
actually,
most
that
yeah.
album was a solo album.
Yeah.
Ronnie was going to do a solo album. We were in Sabbath, everything was going great. And Warner Brothers had signed Ronnie to a solo deal. And that album was supposed to be like Ronnie and his friends writing songs or whoever, and typical solo album. But Sabbath started to break up. And that's when Ronnie said, you know what? I'm going to put a band together of my own finally, and I'm going to use that deal to establish and get it off the ground. And that's what we did. You know, he asked me to join him to do it, you know, and I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So I left with Ronnie, with Sabbath. So.
Did you guys know, and it's funny because you probably didn't just in recording it, but I mean, this album obviously became huge. It's such a, you know, hard rock and heavy metal staple to this day, you know, 35 years later. You know, when you guys were recording it, did you have a feeling that it would explode like it did? Or I mean, like, you know, was it something that you guys were writing and you're like, yes, like this is really, really great? Or, you know, kind of you described you're kind of just having fun and going for it and seeing what would happen, you know?
Well, we didn't go into this going, we got to make a great album. We didn't even think about it. We just jammed. A lot of this stuff was jams. And we put together some stuff Viv had, a couple of the riffs, and so we just were having fun and didn't go in saying, you know, we're going to kick everybody's ass. We just did what we did. And it started sounding really good in the studio. Like I remember sitting there going, this sounds pretty damn good. And my drum tech said, this is going to be platinum. I went, yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I think I probably sell 300,000. Back then, that was a number. Wasn't even a big number. And I'm like, yeah, would be happy if it sold that. You know, we go on the road and take this. Then the thing came out and just started climbing the charts, like boom, boom. You know, we started a tour, and then 4 or 5 months later, we're playing arenas. So it was the typical success story, you know. And to this day, I mean, that's 1983. Was it 38 years old? It
Yeah.
still sells. It still gets played, you know. Luckily, I got publishing on the songwriting and all that stuff. So I know what, you know, how it sits in the business, and it's still the album, you know. And look at the cover. The cover is brilliant. It the colors in it, it looks pretty mean. It looks kick ass. Like, whoa, what is this? And you put it on, the music matches the cover. The cover
Yeah.
matches the music, I guess. So everything was right, you know, with that record. So we didn't know it was going to explode like that.
Yeah, all the pieces kind of came together in the right way. And one
Yeah.
of my favorite Dio songs is "Caught in the Middle." That's probably my number one. Do you have any story of recording that? Because I know that you also were credited as a writer on that song as well.
No, that was something we jammed on, you know, just playing, and you know, bam, bam, bam. Hey, that's cool. You know, we just started. That song's supposedly about our friend Angelo, who wound up being the recording engineer. He's my friend I grew up with in Brooklyn, worked with me in Sabbath, and worked with me and Ronnie in Sabbath as a sound man. And that I just found out. I remember years ago they told me it's about Angelo, but I don't pay attention so much to lyrics, believe it or not. It's crazy. So, but I don't really remember about recording it so much. But when we wrote this stuff, we were so crazy and just anything could go because it's a new band and it's a first album. So you don't have to worry about repeating yourself. And we were smoking a lot of pot. So we'd play a riff. You know, we had jammed one night. We said, that's a cool riff, you know. And Angelo would record it on the 4-track Tascam on a cassette. And then the next night we went in and said, let's roll a couple up. You know, roll them up. We're all smoking. Angelo, let's play that riff so we could work on it, you know. So he puts the cassette in backwards because you could put it upside down. When
Yeah.
you did, it didn't play the other side. It played whatever backwards. So it starts playing. It's going, and we're laughing. We're going, you fucking stone. You like, we're all laughing at him. Then we go, wait a minute, that sounds good, dude. And we learned the riff backwards. And that's a song
Wow.
called Invisible.
Oh, wow.
So if you listen to Invisible, part of the riff is forward, and the other half of the song is actually the riff backwards, played backwards. Obviously, we didn't use the backwards, but we learned the riff that played backwards. And it worked so well. And there's a thing in there where Ronnie wanted to have invisible, like an invisible, like sound effect. But, back then there was no internet. So where do you get a sound effect? So he's just describing his sound effect, like, and then the band comes in, like whatever, like air coming out of a tire, So we go, how can we do that? So our guy, this friend, Tom, I got a truck. I got a spare tire on the truck. Go get it, dude. So we bring the spare tire in. We put it in the studio. I don't think anybody's ever mic'd up a spare tire. We mic'd it up because we're stoned. Everything was like a good idea. And he's in there going, okay, you ready? Go. It's rolling. And he'd let the air out of the tire a number of times. And that's what it's on. That's on the record. I mean, it's just crazy shit like that,
Yeah, I mean, it's stuff
But it worked.
with.
It worked.
It works, and if it worked, that's the most important thing, right? You got the sound effect
Yeah.
you needed. Who cares how you got
Well,
it?
you shouldn't use the word can't when you're making music or creating. Like sometimes I'll go, why don't we go from here and then go to this chorus modulated or something. And then I would get a reply sometimes from different people. Well, you can't go from C sharp to D or that. I don't even know what that is. I know what I could hear, and I got ideas that way. And they go, well, you can't. I said, dude, let's just try it. Music's about listening, not charting out the rules on a piece of paper. Like, well, you can't go from there to there. Why not? Listen to classical music and all the crazy stuff that was written. And then we try it and go, that sounds good. Sometimes it didn't sound good, but a lot of times it did. So can't is not a word we used when we made these records. Plus,
Yeah,
it
I
was a
mean,
new band.
if you follow all those rules, also, it's like you're gonna get the same thing. I mean, I know
Yeah.
things about theory, but at the end of the day, eventually every song's gonna have the same chord progression if you just follow the rules of theory. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody would come up with anything inventive if everybody just followed the rules.
Right. Well, yeah, that's why I said, I'm sorry, but I need to hear it first before you say you can't do that or it doesn't sound good, just because you never did it before, So I'm the guy in there with all the crazy ideas, and I like to chop up, why don't we put an extra beat in that verse? So it's in 4/4, but there's one more beat. It's almost in 5, and it anticipates going into the chorus. So I'm the crazy guy that likes to mess it up a little bit, make it interesting. And Ronnie loves that stuff. He always wanted to make it interesting,
Yeah.
So.
Rewinding a little bit, kind of talking about kind of your creativity and everything, I wanted to go back a little bit into kind of your start and some projects that I haven't heard too much about, in the beginning of your career. I mean, obviously you started playing drums at a very young age. And what's so interesting about your drum playing especially is that you tend to play, at least when I listen, and I've had conversations with my dad, he's a drummer, we kind of bond over music, but you typically play on the backbeat, and you kind of push the music forward rather than lead it or anything like that. So I guess, how did you approach your style to drumming when you were first starting out? Was that something that you kind of just happened organically when you started to gain your own style, or?
Well, pretty much when you first start playing, you don't have a style. It develops while you keep playing and playing.
Right.
I even thought about that. I said, I wonder when I'm going to be me, when I was a kid. And then one day I started to realize, oh, that's like the lick I do. Yeah, I do this. It's starting to become a style. It takes a while to get a style. You can't practice style. But I went for lessons for 3 years, the same teacher as my brother Carmine. And then I was practicing all the time. Sometimes my friends go, come on, we're going out. We're going over there to the park and hang out. So now I got to do my drum lesson and stuff. So I really practiced, and I had my brother as an influence and inspiration. And he was one of the top drummers. So I thought, if I'm going to play drums, I got to be really good. Otherwise, I'm going to be like Carmine's brother. He's not that good. He doesn't have a style and all that shit. So I took it really seriously. And then I hooked up with a band that my guitar player knew Jimmy Iovine, who started Interscope Records and Beats Audio and all that stuff. And back then, he was the producer of John Lennon. He produced Stevie Nicks, Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. And he hooked us up at the record plant, brought us in to produce us. And we were a 9-piece band with 4 horns. It was a really good band. It was tight, real kind of funk rock. And they signed us to a management deal. So we got to hang out at the record plant all the time with our own rehearsal room. And in there, we met John Lennon. And one night they called us down to, Jimmy called us on the phone from our room upstairs. He goes, can you guys come down and do some hand claps? I said, sure, because they didn't have computer hand claps.
Yeah.
So we go down there, 9 of us. We walk in the studio and we see John Lennon. We're like, oh my God. I was 16. Going, holy shit, it's John Lennon. So whatever, we did the hand claps on the song, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, the song with him and Elton John. And then we wound up, he started hanging out with us up in the room. He liked us, smoked a couple of joints with him. He always wanted blow, but I didn't have any blow. I didn't do blow. And then we did 3 videos with him. And then we did a live gig at the New York Hilton. And I come to find out that was his last live appearance. And
Wow.
I did it. I'm like, me, kid from Brooklyn, did this shit? And I was going to school the next day. I was going to high school.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
I'd be drumming on the desk, teacher would be teaching, and I'm like, and she'd try to taunt you, wait a minute, who's that drumming? I go, Vincent, stop that drumming. And I'd stand up and go, excuse me, did anyone else in this room play with one of the Beatles last night?
Yeah, I just did the hand claps for John Lennon, so yeah. I don't need this.
I said, I'm leaving. So I didn't get along in school very well. But the story was I was in the studio a lot, hanging out. And they took me in there and they showed, we recorded. Then they told me, you're rushing a little bit. I went, rushing? Really? I'm rushing? I'm pushing it too much. So they set up a metronome, which was a light, hard to play to a light. And so there I learned some of the recording tricks and got used to being comfortable in the studio. And it was a great environment for me. And I was really young, 16, 17 years old, hanging out. And there I met Rick Derringer, who was a big star back then, rock and roll hoochie coo and all this stuff. And he heard me play and he went, wow. So he got my number and asked me to join his band. And then I started going on the road. That was got to be in the right place at the right time. Well, we met everybody in that studio because it was so popular, that studio. It's amazing.
Man,
that's when
incredible.
I used to see Bruce Springsteen. We were waiting for the car across the street. There's the record plant in New York. This is in Manhattan. And here comes Bruce off the train with his guitar on his back, leather jacket. He was nobody. I go, oh, there's Bruce. Hey, Bruce, how you doing, man? He's going in there to make that album Born to Run. So it's like, wow, what a cool thing to experience all this stuff,
Yeah, and I mean, John Lennon must have been huge for you because I know that the Beatles, at that point were, they're the Beatles, man. I mean,
oh, it's the Beatles, I didn't ask him for his autograph, That's why he hung out with us, because he used to come up, watch us rehearse. Then there's a pool room. We play pool, and we never said, hey, John, could we take a picture? Hey, John, could you sign this?
Right.
We didn't do that. We hung out, and he felt safe with us. So he would just come up and hang out. We go, holy shit, I can't believe this, and we're talking, and it's just, what an experience, I have one picture with him, with the whole band at the show we did. Luckily, somebody took that.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Yeah, I'd heard about that. I was prepping for this, and I heard about it, but I actually hadn't heard the whole story. So that's so great. And how old were you when you ended up joining Black Sabbath? Because, I mean, obviously that was a couple years later.
Yeah, that was 1980. And so how old was I? 23.
Wow.
And right before I got a call from Sabbath, I got a call from Sharon Osbourne, who told me she was putting a band together with Ozzy. And I thought, oh, and they heard about me and they wanted to fly me to England to hang out with Ozzy. And I was really young. I didn't know where England was. I'd never been out of the country except for Canada. So I said, let me get back to you. So I asked my brother Carmine, who toured with Ozzy and knows me. I go, is he crazy? He goes, yeah, he's pretty crazy. So I turned it down.
Wow.
I turned that gig down. And then a month or two later, I get a call, Black Sabbath. And they were in LA, so it was easy. I went and met Tony Iommi at a hotel in Hollywood. And he had one of the albums I did, band I had called Axis, a 3-piece band. He really liked it. And we hit it off really well. And then he invited me to come to rehearsal the next day. And then next day I met everybody. We hit it off. And we started rehearsing like crazy. And so they were all happy. They got a drummer because they were in the middle of a tour.
Oh.
And Bill Ward left. They're in the middle of a tour, and Bill didn't show up in Salt Lake. No, where was it? Denver. Big arena sold out. Bill left, so they had to postpone that gig. That gave him 4 days off. Go to LA, find a drummer. So,
Yeah, well, they succeeded. They found you, so it ended up working out.
I know. So what a year. You get a call from Ozzy, you get a call from Sabbath. That's a good year.
Something too that I was curious about is, I mean, obviously that was a time where they brought Ronnie in, Heaven and Hell, and Ozzy obviously wasn't in the band anymore, and then Bill Ward left and you came in. Did you ever get any like flack or critique, from fans or critics who kind of viewed the original Sabbath lineup as anything? Was that anything that you ever experienced? Because I mean, sometimes people are like, this is the original lineup and I don't like anything else, and whatever. So did you ever experience any of that when you came into the band originally?
No, not at all. Not me, but Ronnie did, because even though when before the Heaven and Hell album came out with Ronnie, Sabbath was kind of on a down flow.
Right.
The last albums weren't doing good. Ozzy was all messed up, and the band was losing its popularity and album sales, the whole thing. Then Ronnie comes in, they write this magnificent album, and this thing shoots them right back up to arenas, But when I joined, I noticed there's some gigs where people have big banners going, "Where's Ozzy?" Poor Ronnie he hated that too. People doing, "Where's Ozzy?" Oh, man. He had to put up with that shit for a while, because Ozzy was Black Sabbath, and Ronnie had to not fill his shoes, but he was the new front man. He had to just prove he was Ronnie, pretty much. Then it stopped after a while. And so I never got that, because the drums are not quite as important when you make a change with a front man. It depends who the drummer is, but still,
Yeah.
he got a lot of flack. I didn't get any flack. And then once we started, we released the Mob Rules, people accepted it like, holy shit. Because that album was another album that just went really well. It's still a classic and stuff. So people thought, wow, it's a new version of Sabbath, kicks ass, so they accepted it.
Which sometimes I feel like the Mob Rules is, you look at Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, I feel like sometimes it's a little bit too underrated. I feel like some of the songs on there are just so great, and sometimes people, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Heaven and Hell, it's a great record, but I'm like, appreciate some of those songs on Mob Rules, because I feel like some of them often go overlooked.
They're all good. But Heaven and Hell album had the song Heaven and Hell, which is like, oh my God, that's got to be the cornerstone of rock.
Yeah.
That song, what a song. But they were just great albums, and to this day that one still sells. So does Heaven and Hell. It's 40 years and stuff's still, people are buying it, people listening to it. I actually do my own little touring. I started off in Ohio. They invited me to play with this band, played old Sabbath stuff. And actually it was Sabbath stuff that I played on, and some old stuff, a couple of Dio things. And it went so well, we did it 3 times. And then I went over to Europe and did 25 shows with a band from Europe, kick-ass band. And people loved hearing all this old stuff. So I did a number of tours there. Then I did it in South America. And it's like, holy shit, 40 years later, 35 years, whatever, people still love these songs, And I'm like the only Thai left out there playing from an original Black Sabbath, because Ozzy's not doing it now, and Tony and Geezer are not out there doing it. I mean, Geezer had a band, but I don't know if he's continuing. But I'm keeping the legacy, kind of playing the old stuff, and people love it. So I love doing that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
because I'm the boss. It's a band featuring me,
right?
And I'm the boss. I don't have to
worry
deal with
all that, because I mean, you're the guy who wrote the music, so I mean,
yeah. But I don't have to deal with egos in the band and all that there are, but sometimes, it's not fun. So I have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, people also went crazy because I know you just talked about my friend Stephen Keeler. You're on the Rock Fantasy show, and you talked about how Rob Halford, you guys were thinking about that, after Ronnie passed, and it kind of blew up, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh," that was a possibility. But I mean, now obviously that Black Sabbath, I guess the moniker has kind of. They did the end tour, obviously, with Ozzy and whatever. I mean, that kind of ship of, do you think of doing anything in the future, like show-wise, has kind of sailed?
No, not with Tony or Geezer or anything. No. Yeah, I'm still in touch with them via emails and stuff, but anything could happen. But Tony, there was a recent blib going around all over the internet that Rob Halford was
Yeah.
they're going to do it because he wanted to do it. We talked about it a long time ago, and it never happened. And then all of a sudden it came out, and Tony said, "No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen." But Rob did play 2 gigs with us when Ronnie didn't want to. We were on the Dehumanizer tour, and the last 2 shows were with Ozzy going on before Ozzy. It was supposed to be Ozzy's retirement show. That was 1992. Actually, I have a poster up there from that. And Ronnie refused to do it. He didn't want to open or go on before Ozzy. And he just thought it wasn't a good idea. So he didn't do it. He bowed out. So we got Rob Halford, and we went to Phoenix. We played Phoenix. We had a day off, and we had to go rehearse in a rehearsal studio. So the funny thing is, it was the local rehearsal studio, and people are there rehearsing, and then in comes Rob Halford, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, myself, and they go, "What? What are these guys doing here?" And we rehearsed for a couple of hours, and we had to go over all these songs, and Rob had to learn all this stuff. I had to learn it too because there were songs we didn't play so much with Ronnie, and Rob had to learn all that stuff, and we were all nervous because we hadn't played these songs,
Yeah.
But when we went on, and it sounded great, and we got through it, and it was really a good thing. So that's when it was talked about. Well, hey, maybe continue with Rob, back then. That was
Yeah.
1992, but didn't happen. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because I guess I would have never, I mean, I'd known eventually that he did a couple of shows with you guys, but it's weird, when you see, just kind of like ideas of things like that happening, it's hard to envision exactly what like an album with him, fronting the band would have looked like, but it's really interesting to think about that, as a possibility.
There would have been an album, you'd have to do an album
Right.
and come together as a band. And then, I'm sure it would have worked really well, because it's all in the same family music wise, the way Rob sings. And actually Rob was one of Ronnie didn't have a lot of favorite singers, but he loved Rob and he loved Chris Cornell. Ronnie respected people that could really sing because obviously Ronnie really sings. And so that was one of his favorite singers. And Glenn Hughes also.
Yeah, man. Glenn Hughes still has the pipes. If anything ever did happen, maybe call Glenn because he's got the pipes still, man. It's insane.
Well, Glenn sang with us too. He did a show in London, like a benefit show, and Glenn come up and sang a couple of songs with us. But the weird thing was we rehearsed. We always rehearse in Wales, and we were in the place. It's a big house. And we're rehearsing, and Glenn's there, and then we played Heaven and Hell. And it was so weird to play the song without Ronnie. It was everybody felt the vibe, and everybody felt weird. Some sort of thing going on in the room that, wow, man, Ronnie, maybe he's close by, I don't know. But it was a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you this story because I think that you'll get a kick out of it. I think it's really great. So I saw this festival back in 2019. It was called the Sonic Temple. It's like one of those 3-day kind of massive festivals. And Killswitch Engage played, and they of course do the cover of Holy Diver, right? But it was, when I tell you, it was like the sunniest day that has ever been. It was super sunny. They were playing this song. Wait, it was a kind of a magical moment, and I think that you'll enjoy this. It was a sunny day, and literally, right before they were about to play this song, I felt like droplets on me, and I was like, I thought people were crowd surfing, somebody spilled their beer, like, damn, I got beer on me, whatever. And I turn around and there's nothing, and I look in the sky, literally the second that they're about to start playing Holy Diver, and we look in the sky and there's a huge rainbow.
Really?
Rainbow. And it rained for like sprinkled, like almost like somebody threw a beer on me, and that was it. And there was a huge rainbow, and they addressed the fact that was there, and they started to play Holy Diver, and like it brought tears to my eyes because it was like the most like magical moment.
Wow, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it was like just like a vibe of like, yeah, like Ronnie's there, man.
Did the band mention it after they sang it? Look at this. This is freaky, man.
It was insane, and it didn't rain. Like there was like not a cloud in the sky, and it sprinkled for like 2 seconds, and it didn't rain for the rest of the day. And there was a
Wow.
rainbow for like a half hour. It was incredible.
Wow. Something happened with a rainbow here too after he passed. I think that the next day or something, there was like 2 rainbows, and it doesn't rain much here in California, and
Yeah.
it was some weird thing like, oh man. So, but that's really cool. That's so cool. That's great. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing story,
Yeah. It was incredible. And to this day, when I think about it, because it was just like, it wasn't even like, it couldn't have even been like, oh, it was raining and then there was a rainbow and it was just like a coincidence that there was a rainbow, like
There was
now I'm just making
no
stuff up.
rain.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
incredible. But yeah, I thought you would get a kick out of that because,
That's cool.
obviously with
That's touching.
Ronnie.
That's a touching story. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I know that I want to touch a little bit too on. I know you did this kind of tribute to Ronnie with obviously Carmine back in the beginning of kind of quarantine, as we call it. You guys were
Yeah.
doing the online video, which was so great, by the way. I mean, what was the inspiration? Of course, obviously, besides having it be Ronnie's 10th anniversary since he passed. I mean, of course,
Well,
of doing this with your brother, especially.
it's funny because Carmine and I finally did an album together, and it's called Sinister. And we're looking for songs. Actually, Joel Hoekstra wrote a couple of songs. We put them together. We got riffs from people. We got stuff from everywhere. We put it together. And one of the songs, Carmine had a song with his band King Cobra, and it was called Monsters and Heroes. And Paul Shortino wrote the lyrics and was part of the song. And they never used it. So Carmine said, "Look, I got this cool song. It's about Ronnie. The lyrics about Ronnie. It's a good song, had a great feel." So we put it on the album, and that was 2016-ish, 2017. And then when this pandemic stuff happened, everybody was doing these videos where they're together. And Carmine and I said, why don't we do something like that? It'd be cool with 2 drums, we could put it together, make a video like that. And then we realized, it's Ronnie's 10th anniversary. Let's do Monsters and Heroes. And it just works out perfect for the timing. So we did that, and then we gave it to Artie, the guitar player in the band, and he was the guy that edited. And it came out really, really good, really good. And it wasn't the take from the album. We actually everybody played we laid a guitar track down. He played the whole thing, and I played to it. Then the bass played to that. Then Carmine played to the song. And so it was really cool, and it worked out perfect, and it was a great tribute for Ron,
Yeah, it came out really good, and I think that I love the fact that that was a song for him that you guys ended up kind of taking and doing for his anniversary. So I think that's so great. I also have to ask you, because I've wondered, since I have been learning music, why do you and your brother pronounce your last names
I
differently?
knew you were going to say that.
I have been wondering and racking my brain since I learned you guys as drummers, and I've always been curious.
Well, what's good about it is it keeps people talking about
It
it.
definitely does.
For 40 years. So what happened was Carmine came out. He's 11 years older than I am, so he came out first. And he used to say Appice. And there's proof of that because there's some live recordings, albums with a band called Vanilla Fudge that he was in. And they said, he did a drum solo and said, Carmine Appice on the drums. So he's Appice. And then I came out with Rick Derringer after John Lennon thing. And that got me a little bit known, but I said Vinny Appice. So we were Appice. And about that time, Carmine started playing with Rod Stewart. And Rod Stewart said to him, hey, what is it with the last name? You get pronounced all over the place. Is it Appice, Appice, Apache? He was all confused about it. So what are you going to call? What do I call you? So Carmine said, call me Appice. So that's how it started. So he started as Appice. And ever since that day, I think that was 1977, it's not stopped. Then I'm Appice, he's Appice. And we have another brother. He lives around the corner from me. He's the oldest. He doesn't play or anything, but he says Appice.
Oh my God.
It's the Italian way to say it.
Oh boy.
So Carmine plays along the career. Carmine plays with Ozzy at some point when I was playing with Dio and we're touring in Europe. And so he used to do a big drum solo and Ozzy would go, it's Carmine Appice on the drums. Yeah. Fast forward to, when was that? 2000. What year is that? I don't even know. About 2000. And I wind up getting a call to go play. I was playing with Dio, but we were playing small clubs and all that shit, and things were getting pretty slow. I get a call to go play with Sabbath with Ozzy because Bill's sick. Bill Ward couldn't play. So, okay. So I decided to go play with them. And so it's a big European tour, big places, the big festivals, the whole thing. So Ozzy, the first show, he introduces the band, and he goes, Tony Iommi, and Vinny Appice on the drums. Oh, fuck. So I had to tell him the next day in the hotel lobby. I go, hey, Ozzy. I said, Carmine, of course. He loves Carmine. I said, he says Appice. I say Appice. And he goes, yeah. Yep. It's so funny. It was so fun to be around. So I had to explain it to him, that we say it different. And I just told him, I'm Appice, he's Appice. And he must have really remembered it because the next night he introduced the band and he turned around and looked at me and he was all concerned. He went, and Vinny Appice on the drums. He's waiting for my approval. I went, you're the boss, dude. You can call me anything. I'm still here playing the drums, you're the big guy. And it was really funny because I had to tell him because he got it, he's playing with Carmine. So ever since that day, it's always been the same question, which is good. I don't mind.
I mean, it's kept you guys, I guess, unique in a way. You know what I mean? You say it differently. It's not something that I guess you guys planned, but.
No, we didn't plan it. It just happened like that.
It happened.
And then my father said Appice like I did.
Right.
My father. And then if you go to Italy, they go, whoa, a peach, Mr. Peach, or a peach, So yeah. It's a funny name, and Carmine mixed it all up, and then it never ends. I got asked that. I did an interview today. I got asked that.
It's funny because I feel like, and I don't know, it's one of those things that too, I've never even taken the time to look up. I probably could have found a good answer, but I was like, hey, you know what? I've been wondering this since I was I don't even know how old, so I'm just gonna ask.
Well, we do a show, Carmine and we do a show together with a band, and we play all the hits. I do a lot of Sabbath and Dio. He does his career, and some drum shit in between. It's real exciting, really high energy. So at one point, Carmine does a drum solo real quick, and then I come out and go, that's Carmine Appice on the drums. I come to the front of the stage. I go, now, you guys know he says Appice, and I say Appice. And they're all going, yeah. I go, you want to know the story? And they all go, yeah. They go crazy. I go, here's the story. And then I just say, he started first. And then all of a sudden, Carmine starts playing. And I mime it. Like I'm talking, but you can't hear me because he's playing. And I go, and he's playing. Then he stops, and I go, and that's the story. And it cracks the whole place up. And that happened by a fluke. We did it when he started playing. So I'm real into joking around all the time. And I just started miming it. I'm like, this is great. And then he stopped and went, and that's the story, everybody, because they thought they were going to hear how it happened for sure. I mean, they never learned. They never learned why and how it happened. It's a really good skit that happened in there.
That's hilarious. That is a really good one.
Really good.
That is really good. That's rich.
It's like a comedy sketch almost,
Before I let you go really quick, at the end of every single one of my interviews, I ask the same 5, they're rapid fire. They're kind of just questions that I ask everybody because it's cool to get different answers. So you can answer them however you want, if you want to do it fast or kind of explain anything. So the first question is, if you weren't in the profession that you're currently in, so obviously drummer, musician, what do you think that you would be doing?
Well, I would probably be doing computer networking, administration, all that. I'm really into computers. I actually took Microsoft certification tests and Cisco routers. Yeah, I build them, and I actually take care of a couple of friends' companies. So I would be doing that. But if I didn't ever play drums, I'd probably love to work on aircraft engines and stuff. I like to build. I like all that crazy shit. I like problems like that. Like even with the computers, they go, "You're crazy, dude. How come this doesn't work? I'll fix it. Don't worry." So I'm Windows. I'm Mac. Windows.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a Windows PC for a while, and I switched over to a Mac because I I don't use it for too much, you know. I mean, I do kind of the basic stuff. I do like a little bit of editing or anything. I don't do too crazy, but it's funny. I went to school for part of my degree was for technology, but if anything happened technically went wrong, like I could not fix it. I went
Well,
that's
I
part
went.
of the degree,
You're
but
right. I went to these courses, and I took these pretty heavy courses. And a lot of the guys that were in there, you learned, about computers on paper. They read and they never really built stuff or took care of networks and stuff. And I did
right.
all that, and I could usually fix anything on Windows machines, build them. I could do anything. That's why I don't do Macs. Windows, you can hot rod them, get faster processors and
Yeah.
graphic card memory. It's fun to build them and watch them come alive. So, but these guys, they didn't have a lot of experience. I even taught the class. The teacher goes, "Why don't you teach the class how to build a computer?" I said, "Okay." So I brought in the computer parts and I explained the whole process back then. Here's how you do it. And I did it until the thing ran. It
Wow.
booted up and everybody enjoyed it. So
That's incredible.
yeah, I like doing that stuff.
The second question is, what is something that you wish everybody knew about you? So if that was like a guilty pleasure, or do you have like a talent that you have that nobody knows about, something like that?
Um, Gee, I don't know. Probably more of this other side of me, which likes to fix things. And when we made Holy Diver, Ronnie had a Cadillac, and he had this old piece of shit Nissan four banger. And I swear to God, they're in the studio doing whatever, and it's at night, and I got a light, I got the hood open, and I'm fixing his car. I'm tuning it up or whatever. I was doing all this crazy stuff. So. A lot of people don't know I was into doing this,
Right.
kind of regular stuff. I like teaching, I love teaching drums or whatever. I like talking in front of people and stuff. I'm not a good cook. I only make pancakes and some pasta, tuna fish sandwiches. I make good pancakes, but I love it.
Yeah, pancakes and pasta's really easy. You just put it in I mean, I guess if you're
Pasta's
kind of,
easy.
yeah, you just put it in the
You know
water.
what? I
Done.
never made my homemade sauce. I used to, I was married for a while, and my mother used to make it. I didn't have to make it. And then I said, what, I'm going to learn how to make it now that I'm home. And I
Right.
got my mother's recipe. She's passed on, God bless her. But I made it, and I made meatballs and the whole thing, and it came out great. So
Yeah, look at that. You got another new little skill because of quarantine, You can
yeah,
make
I
this.
know. I learned how to cook. Yeah, but I hate not being able to go out to eat properly.
Right.
Like, what are we going to eat tonight? Well, on my show, it became on the thing I do every Tuesday at 4 o'clock on Facebook. It became, what are we going to eat tonight? And it became a thing. Every show, people want to know what we're going to eat.
Oh
And we go,
man.
well, we're going to the Mexican place. I love Mexican food. We're going to the Indian place tonight. We're going here. Then I tell them it's too cold to eat outside, so I'm probably stay home and eat tuna fish sandwich or make some meatball. I made meatballs. I took a picture of them. I put them on the site. They
Yeah.
could see the meatball. I got more comment on the meatballs in the show.
More comments on dinner than the drums. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So I went, this is not hard to make. So, you know what it is? I don't have the patience. Like what happens all the time. So I'm probably so used to traveling and moving and not being in one place. You go, I'm hungry.
I just want to eat. I don't
So
want to
I
have to
want to
make
eat.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to make it. I don't want to sit
That's
there for,
my thing too, is I'm not a big, and it's funny because I mean, when I do cook, I enjoy it, but
yeah,
I'm like, I just want the food to be ready. I'm
me
hungry.
too.
I don't want to go through the whole having to wait for it and put it in the oven and the prep. I just want to eat it already. Like that's
Unless I'm prepared to do that. Like, okay, I'm going to make some pasta today,
right.
start earlier and it's ready. But when usually that's like now it's 5 o'clock. I'm getting hungry, but I want to eat. I don't want to make something now. It's 5 o'clock.
Oh man, it's a struggle. It's a real struggle. The third question is, if you were stranded on a desert island and you only had 3 records to bring with you to listen to, real quick, what would they be off the top of your head?
Probably a Led Zeppelin record. Probably Holy Divers. Like I remember what I was, and I listened to it. Go, oh, that's me. Yeah, I used to play that. And then I don't know. I probably have a jazz record like a Buddy Rich album or something for
Yeah.
keep my energy and inspiration going because he was my inspiration, Buddy Rich. Those three.
The fourth question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
I would say, if you're going to be in the music business, be aware. Don't get the wool pulled over your eyes. Own stuff, own part of the band, own some songwriting. And the most important thing is, when you do get that stuff that you own, make sure your mailing address is at your place. Serious, because when somebody else, I tell that to a lot of kids, and
Yeah.
young folks, I go, figure this, somebody's going to collect the money for you. I'm going to collect the money for you, and I'll send you checks accordingly. Oh, that's great. What happens when you have a fight with that person? You don't talk to them in a while, and you got to start calling and stuff. I said, that doesn't work. So get stuff sent to you as much as you can, and have an ownership in the band and stuff.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
crazy,
definitely
crazy business.
good piece of advice, because I've heard many, many stories over the years about horror stories when it comes to stuff like that. So definitely, anybody's listening and you're in a band.
When we made Holy Diver, started getting publishing and writing.
Yeah.
It was offered to me, like, we could have the company, collect the money for you from all the places in the world, or and then we'll send you a check. I went, oh, that sounds convenient. That's good. Then I said, I thought about it. You know what? I'll set it up myself.
Yeah, I'll take.
And luckily, from 1983, I still get checks sent to my address, home address company, from that album and other stuff. So that's a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, it's a good piece of advice. Yeah, I think just in general, this business, just stay aware. there's a lot
be aware.
of things. Yeah.
Right.
Stay aware for sure. I like that one. The last question I have for you is more of a fun one. If you could have one superpower, what would it be? Just any superpower.
Oh, if I had a superpower, I would love to be able to beam anywhere in the world.
Teleportation. Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'll totally eliminate this hassle of traveling.
Yeah.
We're playing in London tomorrow. Okay, I'll beam in the day before and go to the hotel. That would be so cool. Like my friend Eric Turner, he plays guitar for Warren. He used to live around here. He said, we get paid to travel. We don't get paid to do the gig, because travels take so much time. By the time you figure out what you got paid or what you made on the gig, really you got paid to travel to get there.
Yeah.
You're on stage for an hour and a half, and
the gig's 2 hours, and traveling there is like
14 hours.
14 hours by the time
two flights. Anytime there's two flights, you're talking about 10 to 12 hours away from where you live. And California's furthest place away.
Yeah.
Center of the country, I guess he meant that because he moved to Texas. Texas is in the middle, closer to, especially the East Coast,
Oh, well, yeah, it's not too far at all, but
further west, there's less gigs.
Teleportation's also, you don't even have to pay for anything. You don't have to pay for any of the travel. You can just get there, kind of.
It's like Star Trek.
Free.
Actually, just beam me on the drums. It's even better.
I don't even want to deal with before. Just beam me the second that the show's about to start, right?
Like 10 minutes before, beam me right on the drums. That'll work. That'd be great.
Well, man, it has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. This was so great. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to hear everything you have coming up. Keep watching the drum videos you do. And, of course, hear the Last in Line record whenever that, comes to be and kind of finishes up. So thank you so much for taking your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Nice meeting you. And thanks for having me on. And good luck with your podcast and stuff. And don't forget Facebook, 4 p.m. Pacific time on my site every Tuesday. And it rocks. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you guys better be there, because
I got a lot of stories.
Cool stuff. You do some cool stuff, and get to see Vinny play some drums. So we're all craving some kind of live music. So if you can get it a little bit here.
People dying to hear some live stuff. That's great. So hopefully soon. So that'd be good. Well, good luck, Sydney. Nice talking to you.
Great talking to you. Please stay in touch, and I will see you whenever the world gets back to normal and you are in Philly. So
say hi to your dad. Tell him I said hey.
I will.